Renu. It really is a great pleasure to share the platform with fellow enthusiasts and a lot of consultants here. Therefore, let me make it short. We have come a long way. Of course, my disclosures. I am an official speaker for many of the biologic companies in the UAE and the Middle East. And I would like to say that I have more than 150 patients on various biologics for almost many conditions. A lot of them on secukinumab and ixekizumab, a few even on guselkumab, and I'm an official spokesman for Skyrizi too. The objectives of this talk is to talk about from where we were to where we have reached. Let me tell you that the progress in the last 10-20 years has been astounding, and we have reached a stage where we can almost clear psoriasis, which, as all of you know, is a very chronic, almost lifelong inflammatory condition. In a matter of weeks, we can achieve a PASI 0 nowadays, even within 2 to 3 weeks, and we can maintain it for 5 years and longer. As you all know, the most common form of psoriasis, the stable plaque psoriasis, which is 85%, is the erythematous scaly plaques on the extensor surfaces, scalp with age changes. Of course, you have around 1/3 of patients who have the arthritic or arthropathic type, and you have the erythrodermic, the pustular, the guttate, the inverse, and the palmoplantar types too. All of them share certain things in common. The psoriasis form acanthosis, the entrapment of neutrophils in the parakeratotic epidermis and the spongiform pustule of Koyo, dilated capillaries in the apodermis and the thinning and the scratching which leads to the ospit sign. The participation of the cells, the keratinocyte, the neutrophil, the dendritic cell, the T lymphocyte, and all of them have been obvious to us for quite some time. Next slide. The history of psoriasis is replete with many interesting discoveries. The initial confusion between leprosy and psoriasis was resolved almost 200 years ago, where Robert Villan described psoriasis pretty clearly. But then, even till the 1980s, we were in the phase of empirical treatment. It was in 1980 that still the keratinocyte was thought to be the primary factor in the entire pathogenesis of psoriasis. In 1982, we discovered the T cells and their role in psoriasis. Of course, in 1986, the signature of Th1 cells, the TNF alpha and interferon gamma, were differentiated with the signature of Th2 cells, the interferon 4, 13, etc., which are of paramount importance in atopic dermatitis. Of course, the recent discoveries, that is, in 1974, 3 people got the Nobel Prize for discovering how monoclonal antibodies can be harvested, and the discovery of the human genome and the human genome project, which made a huge impact in many conditions. Of course, the psoriasis is seen almost exclusively in humans. A few primates have been seen with psoriasis. By and large, experiments have been done in mice, various types of mice, transgenic, knockout, and even xenograft. And all these have led to many discoveries, and nowadays it's possible for us to not only look at the cells, but the cytokines and various mechanisms in which they interact, whether it be in a pro-inflammatory manner or in an anti-inflammatory manner. One of the hallmarks of the discoveries was around, let me see, it was somewhere around 2005, when actually an experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis model in mice, which was done to evaluate multiple sclerosis, threw up a very unexpected result: the discovery of the Th17 cell and its lineage, and the Th17 cytokines, which turn out to be of paramount importance in psoriasis. Of course, of late, the IL-23 P19 molecule, the IL-23, is considered as a master switch. If you switch it off, as if you are in a hotel room with so many lights and other things to be managed, if you have a master switch and if you switch it off, you can switch off almost everything. Therefore, the IL-23 might be the key cytokine which drives the IL-17 cells and its molecules. Of course, the genetic heterogeneity and the genetic transcriptomes and the different genotypic phenotypic variants of psoriasis might end up in our future generations considering psoriasis as a different disease, and we might be labeling the condition in a molecular manner. So let me go on to the next slide. This is Professor Kruger's recent representation of how psoriasis pathogenesis probably works. As I said, we have a trigger which may be well known to most of us. The trigger results in activation of the blastocyte or dendritic cell, which signals the myeloid dendritic cell, which in turn signals Th17 cells, and you have cytokines being released to the keratinocytes, which results in a so-called feed-forward mechanism, which is a loop. The interesting thing is both innate immunity and acquired immunity play an important role. And TNF alpha probably plays a role not only in the initial initiation, but also has a synergistic effect with IL-17 when it comes to the psoriatic pathogenesis in the skin. And it's not just IL-17 in the adaptive system, but both in the innate and adaptive system, which are important. Not only that, it's quite evident that it's not just IL-17A, but B, C, D, F also may play a role. Next slide. This is with Professor Kruger and of course Professor Lebevol. I was in the translational biology lab in Mount Sinai Hospital, and actually I went to look at the mice experiments in atopic dermatitis during the development of dupilumab, but I ended up speaking to Professor Kruger, who told me about his experience with risankizumab. This was about 2 years ago, and he was having an issue with FDA because risankizumab, apparently when they gave it to the patient, produced a totally clear skin in a very short time. And not only that, there was a problem. Some of the patients almost did not relapse. So the FDA started questioning, why don't you declare this as a cure? And why don't you stop your treatment? There was a huge confusion about how long the study should go on. Of course, psoriasis is more than a skin. I don't think I need to go into this. The Grappa domains, psoriatic arthritis, whether this should be considered as a separate entity. As all of you know, spondyloarthritis with a negative rheumatoid factor, of course in 85% of patients, is the hallmark of psoriatic arthritis. But you have dactylitis, you have enthesitis, and you have a different presentation as compared to rheumatoid arthritis. The erosive nature of the disease and the hardship it produces due to that is well known, and the mortality, not only because of the disease itself, but many a time due to the side effects of the medications that we give, is a big issue as far as psoriatic arthritis is concerned. Even here, the pathogenesis of the axial arthritis as compared to the peripheral arthritis might seem different as far as the chemical signature is concerned, and that might explain why certain biologics, for example, ustekinumab, seems to work better maybe in peripheral arthritis and not in central arthritis, and that seems to be shared by the newer IL-23 molecules too, whereas the IL-17 molecules seem to work not only in peripheral arthritis, the central arthritis, the skin, and even the hard to treat areas. Of course, the disease burden of psoriasis, I think we should skip this. The changing target to treatment. See, as our expertise in managing psoriasis changes, so does the target or the expectation of the patient. We are no longer talking about PASI 50. We are no longer talking about even PASI 75. The minimum expectation is PASI 90. Or in other words, this is a time when we can all get excited about the new paradigms or new parameters that we can create on our own. When you talk about treat to target, remember that psoriasis is a psoriatic disease. So we are not talking about only the skin. It's not just a clear skin or a near clear skin, but we are talking about the arthritis component, whether it's an ACR 20, 50 or 70, and also about many other myriad issues. For example, the surrogate markers for cardiac activity are being utilized, and nowadays it's possible that we may come up with a new definition of treat to target. 2019 was a hallmark year when the National Psoriasis Foundation in the US declared cure of psoriasis as the goal, and a series of Delphi meetings have been held over it. I was a participant in a few of them actually. This is my case one. Of course, a 40-year-old Filipino who had swelling of the finger, of the left middle and ring fingers from 2017. She had been treated with methotrexate for about 3 months, but developed cervical node swelling, was admitted in Rashid Hospital and took ADT for 9 months. Hypertension and presented with skin and joint manifestations. BSA was 20, PASI 22.8, DLPI 16, severe psoriasis with arthritis, both axial and peripheral, dactylitis, enthesitis, and a treated pulmonary tuberculosis. Now, of course, IL-17 is a key mediator of keratinocyte activation in the skin, and it also is a key molecule in the scalp, in the hard to treat areas, the nails, palms, and soles. Also, it drives the enthesitis, and it is a hallmark of both peripheral and axial arthritis. IL-23 might control IL-17 as far as the adaptive system is concerned, but in the innate mechanism, IL-17 does have an effect in many aspects of psoriasis, which are probably equally important. So again, secukinumab, humanized or human immunoglobulin 1, which blocks IL-17A, acts on the skin, the joints, peripheral, axial, nails, scalp, both the adaptive and the innate, that is the IL-23 dependent and the IL-33 independent mechanisms are blocked when you use a molecule of this nature. Of course, we need parameters to assess clinical activity. The earlier you diagnose and the earlier you treat the arthritis, the better. It is well known that if even 2 years is missed, you end up with at least one joint being damaged, and if 10 years are missed, at least 5 joints are damaged. So it behoves us as dermatologists who see 80% of even psoriatic arthritis before the arthritis part develops to appropriately treat a patient and not be hesitant. These are some of the side effects, and to be frank, I have a large number of patients. Injection site reactions we see in patients on ixekizumab sometimes. With secukinumab, injection site reactions are very rare. Upper respiratory tract infections are common. Slight fall in the count sometimes is seen, but candidiasis is extremely rare. As all of you know, IL-17 plays an important role in mucocutaneous candidiasis. The genetic mucocutaneous candidiasis chronic is one of the manifestations of absence of IL-17A. Still, in practice, I have probably more than 50 patients right now on Secu and ICSI. Almost not a single patient has had candidiasis. Tuberculosis is a common issue. So we do find latent tuberculosis patients, and latent tuberculosis patients, none of them have actually reactivated after these medications have been given. So when a patient has latent tuberculosis, the IL-17 molecules and possibly the newer IL-23 molecules are the best choice. Of course, started on this one, before and after slides, before and after slides, before and after slides, before and after slides. I don't think I should talk about this too much, we don't have time. This is a guy who spends most of his life with mice in the University of Switzerland. He took me to his mouse lab, and it was really a horrible experience. This is ICSI, before and after, before and after. This is a patient who ended up with a possible liver transplant because of methotrexate and carbon medication, with Professor Review, with, of course, Matthew, Barcelona. This is an interesting hospital. I would have loved to have spoken about it. We don't have time. This is a patient who took double dose of secukinumab with hardly any side effects. This is a patient with cardiac issues who did wonderfully well. This is a patient who actually had severe obesity and who had to undergo bariatric surgery, and the story is about what happened during his bariatric surgery. This is the patient room. I had to shift to Guselkumab. Of course, with Christian Rick and Diamond Tachi. Just to conclude, I have one of the largest psoriasis support groups in the UAE, and we do a lot of work. We have contact with the charity groups, we have contact with patient support groups, we have a huge network, and our clinic is actually part of a huge network of clinics based in UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Germany, and as the medical director of the clinic and the person dermatologist in charge, actually have been given a wonderful opportunity to make a huge change in the life of patients. I would like to invite all of you to our conference, the conference Derma Medicon in 2020, February 26, 27 and 28. Please do attend, and it will be a wonderful experience. Last year, Professor Renu had come and spoken. What next? Maybe bispecific antibodies. As you know, TNF-alpha works not only in the initiation but also as a part of the feed-forward mechanism. Janus kinase inhibitor, retinoic acid receptor blockers, and targeting the resident memory T cells so that you do not get a relapse. Possibly we are looking at the threshold of a complete cure of psoriasis. But what excites me is only the story of this one individual. This was a young Filipino gentleman who had really severe erythroderma. He lost his job, was in hospital, was given cyclosporin, couldn't afford cyclosporin, ended up coming to our support program. We started him on ixekizumab. In 2 weeks, he got back his job. He was out of hospital, he was out of bed. He's had a huge change in his life. Believe me, all of us can do it. And we are at a threshold where we can make life-changing decisions and life-changing results in many of our patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the interesting talk.